and good afternoon. My name is Timo Harakka. I'm the Member of Parliament in Finland. I'm the ex-Minister of Transport and Communications, and my good friend and colleague Marius Škodis is presently in Lithuania. Transport, communications, they go together inseparably, and we are approaching a time where there is no transport without communications. You've heard excellent speeches and excellent panels on these issues. So as I wrote the book called Data Capitalism in the World of Crisis while being a minister, so I'll try to approach this from a slightly different angle, from the angle of data. And my plan is not to even mention transport before halfway of my chat here. First, as an introduction, 3 numbers, bear with me. So this is the amount of data that is consumed every year globally, 120 zettabytes. And before you ask ChatGPT what is zetta, I can tell you it's 21 zeros. Quite probably this figure is already old and will be doubled in a couple of years. But as you can see, Amazon is making $500,000 of revenue each minute. So much of data, we talk about data capitalism. 10 years ago, the most valuable companies on the planet were producing stuff, producing products like General Electric, or were in regulated services like big banks, or were right in the heart of fossil capitalism like oil companies. But that has changed dramatically. 7 out of the 10 most valuable companies, as you can see what happened throughout the last decade, are involved with data. Collecting data, controlling data, reusing and using data, reselling and selling data. And yes, Tesla is one of those, but I also consider that as a data company because the ultimate ambition of Elon Musk is to make Tesla a leading AI company. And he's been talking about a robo-taxi for more than a decade, and the investors seem to be very patient. There's 7 companies, data companies, their market cap is $14 trillion US, which relative to global GDP is 14%. So there's a really significant change here. And the third figure, not to forget that it's not only the market economies that are interested in data and the capital, which is the most valuable today, which is data, is also the vehicle for world domination. That's what the Chinese think. And Xi Jinping already 10 years ago, 12 years ago, knew that this would be instrumental in governing the world. This figure, the last figure, represents the amount of all data harnessed by the Chinese in percentage points in the end of this decade. 1/3 of all data will be controlled by the Chinese and 20% by the US. So you get the idea why US is very, very worried and is bound to do all kinds of tricks to prevent that. Bear with me, I'll talk about data, but first I'll talk about refrigerators. The shift from product capitalism towards data capitalism started or was visible back in 2017. And that had to do with refrigerators. Back then, Whirlpool, a maker of refrigerators and other appliances, complained to the US government that Korean competitors were selling their wares way too cheaply. And they got help from the government who said that, yes, Samsung and LG are dumping prices. But why would these Korean companies jeopardize their margins for cheaper products? Exactly because they were the first ones to realize that an appliance is a perfect way to collect data. So whenever you open the refrigerator door or put something in or take someone out, you tell the refrigerator something about your eating habits, your family's routines and structures, and how you respond to advertising, whatnot. They were ready for gathering this data. So we were not surprised to see, this is quite recent, that the same companies also, they produce a lot of appliances, also use their television sets to gather a lot of information of what we watch and how we game. That is the essence of data capitalism. So this has transformed businesses. We have the legacy product businesses who have episodic data, and then we have the data companies that have a constant stream of data that they can utilize, gather, collect, and sell. And finally, we get the vehicles. The question here is the data generated in a car more valuable than the car itself? Asked by a company owned by Samsung again, that is providing digital services to car manufacturers. And when we think about cars and the data they produce, so in the legacy business model, you would have, let's say, 10 data points of a vehicle during its life cycle. When it's manufactured, when it's shipped, when it's sold, when it's registered, when it's inspected, maintained, perhaps resold, and ultimately scrapped. Perhaps 10 data points in 10 years. And now you compare it with a continuous data stream which could be really, really valuable. That tells everything about the driver, of the routes, of your family's habits, and the rest of the traffic situations where other cars or other transport users are involved and also communicating with each other. So this has brought an existential question for all car manufacturers. They don't want to be only platforms for Apple and Google, who would own all the valuable parts of the vehicle. They want to fight back. And Stellantis, the company that's producing Fiat, Citroën, Peugeot, Chrysler, is predicting that they will make 10% of their revenue on software, not only on the cars. But I think this is not very ambitious. 10% doesn't sound very valuable. 90% would still be, steel and rubber. So I think that the next step will be much more visible in the near future. And it requires two key elements of the infrastructure. It requires AI, it requires 6G. The maximum capacity of data processing combined, married to the maximum data transfer abilities. So here you see the limits of my ability to produce graphics on PowerPoints. HPC means high performance computers, QC means quantum computers, and 6G is the necessary component. And if you think about where does this high performance infrastructure exist, look no further than northern Finland, the periphery of peripheries. We have the most powerful supercomputer in Europe. I think it's number 5 in the world, in Kajaani, northern Finland, small town, in an paper factory. So there's industrial renewal for you. And next to it, only 2 hours away, is Oulu, which is the global center of 6G research and labs. There are more than 1,000 actors combined with that cluster. So there we have high-performance ecosystem, which could become a game changer. If you think about AI, the resources, the compute that's needed for AI, and think about 6G as development of 5G, it has been said that it's able to produce 1 terabyte per second reliable non-latency transfer, which is around 8,000 times of the peak 5G performance. And there you see the possibilities for true autonomous vehicles, which the Japanese NTT Docomo has already conceptualized as a cyber-physical fusion. So the backbone, the infrastructure you need would be able to communicate from the hundreds of sensors for a vehicle to the central AI, which could predict and govern and control the vehicle in real time, in microseconds, and then get a feedback loop that would really make it possible for autonomous vehicles, finally. And I think this infrastructure, which I think is not emphasized enough, will make all the efforts thus far totally obsolete and ridiculous. So when will we be there? I think in less than a decade. But let's not stop at autonomous vehicles. That is something that's really irritating me a lot. We are talking about atomistic, one single occupancy owned cars. I don't think that's very innovative to start with. We need to think about the whole transport system connected with this kind of high-powered infrastructure. And instead of just having these atomistic autonomous vehicles that everybody is talking about, what we really need is steps towards an automated, holistic transport system that would include everyone communicating with each other in real time and be as automated as possible. This is, I think, the picture for the future. I think this is the vision that I think both Minister Marius and I share, that will be something that we look after when we have communications that make transport possible. But, and there is a but, when we digitize and datafy transport or the societies as a whole in the new world of data capitalism, there is a danger that the vast majority of the planet's populations will be left out. I mean, you may drive a car in Lusaka, but to set up this high-performance infrastructure in developing countries is quite a task. And this is a risk that we deepen the digital divide existing already on the planet, and we are losing the vast majority and actually their support to our advances and our visions of the world. So let's make sure that everyone is involved. Let's make sure that the stakeholders are as many as possible within our societies and between societies. Thank you very much for your patience.